This is 69 News Live at Sunrise. Your life, your world, your news. 69 News Live at Sunrise.
It is performance review time at companies all over, and for many employees, it's something they dread. But the experts say it doesn't have to be that way, and if a company follows certain procedures, reviews should be painless and beneficial for both employers and employees. Here to share some helpful tips to follow is Kim Huggins, CEO of KHR Solutions in Harleysville. Kim, good morning.
Good morning.
So thanks for being with us and helping us make performance reviews as beneficial as possible. Let's talk a little bit about, why even do it in the first place? Why are performance reviews so important, Kim?
Right, great. Well, there's a couple of reasons for that. First of all, it helps to increase communication between the manager and employee and really to set clear expectations for the year. It also can help avoid potential legal situations because you have a documented process which is followed throughout the year, and the employee participates in multiple discussions so they know where they stand from a performance standpoint.
Okay, really important for both the manager and the employee. And why is now prime time? I know it's not the only time this should happen, but it's a time where a lot of companies are doing these reviews.
Right. Typically, this is the time of year where they do them because they have gone through like a compensation planning process. And it's a good time of year because it provides an opportunity to reflect on what happened last year, what went well, what could be improved, and to set goals and objectives for the current year. Basically get everybody on the same page early in the year.
Okay, so what do you recommend, Kim? What kind of companies should do these performance reviews, and how often do you recommend that they actually do them?
Well, companies, regardless of size, all companies should have a performance management process, and it can really be as simple or complex as they want it to make it to be. I recommend that there's at least 3 formal discussions that take place during the year. The first discussion at the beginning of the year to set expectations and set goals and objectives. Another one in the middle of the year to kind of figure out, monitor progress, see how things are going, and then one at the end of the year to summarize and talk about, what went well and what's going to happen in the next year.
And I know that you say if managers kind of follow that calendar, those procedures, employees won't dread this process, right? They'll know what to expect.
Right. I think it definitely helps. It certainly, increases the likelihood that based on these conversations, they're going to be more efficient and more effective. I tell my clients that there should never be a surprise. So, in other words, an employee should know where they stand all during the year. And so when it comes time for that year-end discussion, there shouldn't be any surprises.
Okay. So let's start with some tips for managers, Kim, to make these as productive as possible. You say it's important for managers to do their homework. Don't go into these things blind, right?
Absolutely. I think that's one of the big pitfalls, is that a lot of times managers underestimate the preparation that should go into this type of conversation, this type of process. So what I recommend is that, first of all, review, previous documentation that they had from the last year. Also collect some feedback on how the employee's doing from, their customers or peers or subordinates, and then take some time to plan before the conversation so you don't get into a situation where something unexpected happens.
Okay, so you don't want to go into the big conference room and just say, okay, it's your review, what are you going to talk about? You need to be prepared. And you say it's important to keep things private and positive, right?
Yes, yes. So definitely do it in a private area where you can close the door, somewhat casual if possible, and then keep it positive. As long as you prepare, even a difficult conversation can be done in a positive way.
Okay. And you also say that managers shouldn't just gab at their employees, right?
Right. And that's often what happens.
I imagine it does.
You really want to make it a two-way conversation. It shouldn't be the manager doing all of the talking, but it should be an engaging conversation between both of them.
And it shouldn't be a lash out, right? This should be, managers should also focus on the strengths, right? That's primarily what we want to do.
That is so important. There's a lot of research that has been done on strengths and the fact that employees who are able to utilize their strengths in the workplace are more productive and more engaged. So I suggest you spend the majority of the conversation focused on what the employee does well and how they can do more of that. And then at the end of the conversation, spend some time identifying 1 or 2 things that they could do better.
Okay, great tips. And just lastly, you say that in order to make this a productive process, the manager and employee must agree on next steps.
Right. So at the end of the conversation, summarize, talk about next steps, and then set a time to meet again a couple weeks down the road after you both have had time to kind of reflect and digest on the information that's been discussed.
All right, Kim, great tips. Doesn't sound so scary if you follow those steps.
It doesn't have to be.
Okay, great. Thanks so much. Well, coming up in just a few minutes, Kim will give us some tips for employees. So that's coming up when we come back. Stay with us.